I think that I'm sure the royal family will survive. My fear is they haven't got the greatest advisors around them, and that really is a problem. I think they're trying to strengthen the advisors.
The British royal family has survived scandals, divorces, exiles, and exposés. They have weathered tabloid storms, abdication crises, and the relentless scrutiny of a world that never stops watching. But what is happening right now, behind the gilded gates of Balmoral, inside the hushed corridors of the most private royal estate in the United Kingdom, may be the most explosive secret the palace has tried to bury in decades. And it starts with a name you might not have expected: Tom Parker Bowles. Not the king, not the queen, not even a senior working royal, but Camilla's son, a food writer, a man who, depending on who you ask, is either a charming socialite with impeccable taste or someone who has spent years leveraging his proximity to the crown for personal gain. Today we are going deep. We are talking about secret recordings. We are talking about Princess Anne, the most no-nonsense woman in the entire royal family, allegedly sitting on tapes that could shake the monarchy to its very foundation. We are talking about royal biographer Tom Bower, whose reputation for cracking open palace secrets is almost unmatched in British publishing. And we are talking about a confrontation at Balmoral that staff members reportedly still whisper about to this day. Stay with me, because this story is not just about celebrity gossip. This is about power, access, betrayal, and whether the people closest to King Charles III are quietly exploiting the institution he has spent his entire life trying to protect. Are you ready? Let's begin. The Balmoral incident. Let's go back to the moment everything reportedly unraveled. Balmoral Castle, the Scottish Highlands, thousands of acres of private land that the royal family has called their most sacred retreat for over a century. This is not Buckingham Palace, open to tourists in the summer months. This is not Windsor Castle, visible from the motorway. Balmoral is where the royals go to breathe, to grieve, to make decisions away from cameras, away from courtiers, away from the crushing weight of public life. Queen Elizabeth II died there. That alone tells you everything you need to know about how deeply personal this place is to the family. So imagine, just imagine, arriving at Balmoral and finding it transformed. Trucks, rolling in quietly, almost as if someone had timed their arrival specifically to avoid detection. Camera equipment being assembled in hallways, catering crews moving through private rooms with the comfortable ease of people who believed they had every right to be there. Staff members nervously watching the operation unfold, uncertain who had authorized it, uncertain whether to intervene or simply carry on as if nothing unusual was happening. Now, here is the question I need you to sit with for a moment. Who do you think would have the audacity to authorize a film crew or any kind of recording operation at Balmoral without going through the proper channels? Who in the orbit of the royal family has enough name recognition to make staff hesitate, enough social confidence to assume their access would go unquestioned? Because according to reports that have been circulating and gathering force, the name that allegedly came up when staff started asking questions was not King Charles. It was not a senior palace official. It was not even a member of the royal family. It was Tom Parker Bowles. The explanation given, according to multiple sources familiar with the situation, was that Tom had allegedly approved the operation, not sanctioned it through official royal channels, not cleared it with the king's household, simply approved it, as if his name, as Camilla's son, as the king's stepson, were sufficient authorization for whatever was happening inside those walls. Let that land for a second. A man who holds no official royal title, no constitutional role, no formal position within the institution, had allegedly given the green light for some kind of recording or filming operation at one of the most private estates in the British Isles. And then Princess Anne arrived. Anne's reaction. If you know anything about Princess Anne, and if you follow the royal family, you absolutely should, then you already know that her reaction to this scene was never going to be polite. Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, is 73 years old and has been a working member of the royal family since before many of you watching this were born. She has never courted scandal. She has never chased headlines. She is famously, almost legendarily, no nonsense. She does not do second chances. She does not do negotiation when she believes a boundary has been crossed. She does not smile and pretend everything is fine when everything is very clearly not fine. Witnesses, according to reports, say she exploded instantly upon seeing what was happening at Balmoral. No diplomatic pause, no measured inquiry, no carefully worded request for an explanation. She allegedly ordered everyone out within the hour. Every crew member, every piece of equipment, every unauthorized presence in that building, gone. And here is the detail that makes this story even more extraordinary. Tom Parker Bowles was reportedly not even there. He had allegedly sent other people in his name, operating under the assumption that the association with his identity, with his connection to the Queen Consort, to the King himself, would be enough. That doors would open, that questions would not be asked, that the institution would simply accommodate whatever was being organized because of who he is adjacent to. He was wrong. And when Princess Anne made it absolutely clear that she was not going to accommodate this quietly, when she drew a line in the sand that was visible from miles away, a question immediately emerged within royal circles. And it is a question that we need to be asking right now. What exactly was being recorded at Balmoral, and how long had it been going on? Tom Bower enters the story. Here is where the story takes its most alarming turn. Tom Bower is not a gossip columnist. He is not a tabloid journalist fishing for salacious headlines. He is a serious, deeply sourced, meticulously researched biographer who has spent decades writing about the powerful and the privileged in ways that make them profoundly uncomfortable. His biography of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, Revenge, became one of the best-selling royal books in recent memory precisely because it contained details that were not supposed to be public. His sources are real. His methodology is thorough. When Tom Bower says something, the people mentioned in his work take it very seriously indeed. And Tom Bower has reportedly been gathering information suggesting that Tom Parker Bowles has been involved in secretly recording conversations and meetings connected to the royal family. Now, I want to be careful here because the full picture is still emerging, but the implications of what Bower has allegedly been piecing together are staggering. We are not talking about casual overhearing. We are not talking about a journalist happening to be present when someone said something interesting. We are talking about deliberate, covert recording, meetings, conversations, private exchanges among members of one of the most powerful families in the world. Ask yourself this: if someone close to the king had been secretly recording royal family meetings, what would that mean? What could be on those recordings? And who else might have known it was happening? Because here is the thing about secret recordings. They are never just about the person doing the recording. Recordings can be shared. Recordings can be used. Recordings have a way of eventually finding their way to people and places they were never supposed to reach. And if the reports are accurate, if Tom Bower's investigation is pointing in the direction it appears to be pointing, then the question of who has those tapes becomes the single most important question in British royal life right now. Anne has the tapes. According to sources connected to this investigation, Princess Anne has them. Let me say that again, because it deserves to be heard clearly. Princess Anne, the most uncompromising, most fiercely private, most institutionally loyal senior royal currently living, is allegedly in possession of recordings that captured private royal family conversations. Think about what that means. If Anne has those tapes, she obtained them somehow. Either she discovered recording equipment that had been left behind, or they were handed to her, or she was alerted to their existence by someone within the household who was troubled by what they knew. And if Anne has those tapes, she has a decision to make. A decision that carries enormous weight for the institution she has devoted her entire life to serving. A decision that involves her brother, the king, her sister-in-law Camilla, and the broader question of whether the people closest to the crown can be trusted with the access they have been given. Because here is the brutal truth about the royal family in 2024 and beyond. Trust has become one of the scarcest resources in the institution. The years of Sussex drama, the Andrew scandal, the constant churn of palace intrigue, all of it has left the monarchy in a position where every new revelation carries the potential to do lasting, structural damage. And secret recordings of royal family meetings made by someone who is not a working royal, not a constitutional officer, not even an official member of the household, that is not just a personal betrayal. That is potentially a constitutional crisis. Who is Tom Parker Bowles? Really? Let's take a step back and examine who Tom Parker Bowles actually is, because understanding the man helps you understand the magnitude of what is allegedly being claimed here. Tom Parker Bowles is 49 years old. He is the son of Camilla, Queen Consort, and Andrew Parker Bowles, her first husband. He is therefore the stepson of King Charles III, a relationship that only came into formal existence when Charles and Camilla married in 2005, after one of the most turbulent romantic sagas in modern royal history. Professionally, Tom is a food writer and restaurant critic. He has written several well-regarded books about food and travel. He is charming, sociable, well-connected, and moves comfortably through the upper echelons of British society. He is frequently photographed at glamorous events. He has a certain easy confidence that comes from spending a lifetime in rooms where powerful people gather. But there is another dimension to Tom Parker Bowles that does not always make it into the lifestyle profiles. He is a man who has spent his entire adult life in the shadow of one of the most complicated and publicly scrutinized romantic relationships in British history. His mother was the other woman. For years, for decades, she was vilified in the press, blamed for the breakdown of the most famous marriage in the world, depicted as the villain in a fairy tale that the public had decided belonged to Diana. That kind of childhood shapes a person. Growing up as the son of Camilla during the Charles and Diana years, watching your mother be hunted by photographers, reading headlines that painted her as a homewrecker, that is not something you simply process and move past. It leaves marks. It creates a complex relationship with the institution that was simultaneously your family and your tormentor. And now, at 49, with his mother as Queen Consort and his stepfather as king, Tom Parker Bowles is closer to the center of royal power than he has ever been. The question is, what has he done with that proximity? The pattern of behavior. The Balmoral incident is not, it appears, an isolated event. Multiple sources familiar with royal household dynamics have noted a pattern of behavior in which Tom Parker Bowles has reportedly leveraged his connection to the Queen Consort to obtain access and permissions that would not ordinarily be extended to non-working members of the family. This is not unusual in itself. Royal families have always contained peripheral members who benefit from their proximity to power. What is different here, what appears to have elevated this particular situation into genuine crisis territory, is the alleged element of covert recording. Because there is a vast difference between trading on your family connections to get a good table at a restaurant, access to an exclusive event, or an introduction to a useful contact, and allegedly using those same connections to gain entry to private royal spaces where sensitive conversations are being recorded without the knowledge or consent of the participants. If the latter is what has been happening, then we are talking about something that goes far beyond the usual royal family politics of favoritism and access. We are talking about a potential violation of trust at the highest possible level. We are talking about recordings that could contain anything. Discussions about royal health, family strategy, opinions about public figures, assessments of political situations. Material that, in the wrong hands, could be weaponized in ways that would make the Sussexes' Netflix documentary look like a minor inconvenience. Here's a question I want you to think about. If you were King Charles, and you discovered that private meetings within your own family were being secretly recorded by your stepson, what would you do? How would you handle that revelation without it destroying your relationship with your wife? Without it becoming a public scandal that overshadows everything else your reign is trying to achieve? That is the impossible position that Charles may now be navigating. Camilla's impossible position. And then there is Camilla, Queen Consort. Camilla Parker Bowles, now simply Queen Camilla, has spent 20 years patiently, strategically, and remarkably successfully rehabilitating her public image. From the most reviled woman in Britain to a respected popular consort who has won over the majority of the public through a combination of warmth, humor, genuine commitment to charitable work, and a dignified refusal to engage with her critics. It is one of the most remarkable image turnarounds in modern royal history, and it has been built, brick by brick, on the foundation of her marriage to Charles. A marriage that the public, however reluctantly at first, has come to accept as genuine and loving. Now imagine what it means for Camilla if her son, her own child, is at the center of an allegation that he was secretly recording royal family meetings and using the family's private estate without proper authorization. Camilla cannot simply distance herself from this the way the institution might distance itself from an external controversy. Tom is her son. She loves him. He is part of her life in a way that no amount of palace PR management can fully separate from her identity as queen. But she is also now the queen. She has responsibilities to the institution, to Charles, to the crown. And if Tom has genuinely compromised that institution through his alleged actions, then Camilla faces a personal and professional crisis that has no clean resolution. Does she defend her son and risk her relationship with Charles and the institution? Does she step back and allow the palace machine to manage Tom's situation in ways that might be brutally uncomfortable for him? Or does she try to manage the situation privately, hoping that Anne's alleged possession of the tapes and Bower's investigation can somehow be contained before the full story breaks publicly? There are no good options here, and the fact that Camilla is now in this position, after everything she endured to get to where she is one of the genuine tragedies buried inside this explosive story. The Tom Bower investigation. Let us return to Tom Bower, because his role in this story is absolutely central. Bower has been working on material connected to the current royal court for some time, and sources familiar with his research have indicated that the question of Tom Parker Bowles and his relationship to the inner workings of the palace, including his alleged involvement in recording activity, is something Bower has been examining carefully. Bower's methodology is worth understanding here. He does not rely on single sources. He cross-references, he verifies, he sits with information for months before committing it to print. But they have not been successfully refuted on matters of substance. When he publishes something, it is because he is confident it will withstand scrutiny. So the fact that Bower is reportedly connected to revelations about Tom Parker Bowles and secret recordings is not something the palace can simply dismiss. It is not a celebrity gossip piece that will die in the news cycle by Tuesday. If Bower has the story, it will be meticulously documented. It will include testimony from people who were present. It will lay out a narrative that is difficult to dispute, and the palace knows this, which raises a deeply uncomfortable question. Has the palace already been told what Bower is working on? Has anyone reached out to Bower's publishers attempting to intervene? Because if this story is as explosive as the pieces suggest, then we are almost certainly already in the middle of the kind of behind-the-scenes legal and political maneuvering that happens before a major royal revelation becomes public. What could be on the tapes? This is the question that, if we are being honest, is impossible to answer definitively right now, but it is the question that gives this story its most dangerous potential. Private royal family meetings cover an extraordinary range of sensitive territory. These are not conversations about what to have for dinner. These are conversations about succession planning, about family members who are causing problems, about relationships with governments, political figures, and foreign powers, about internal disagreements over royal policy, about the health and well-being of family members, about loyalty and its absence. If recordings exist of any royal family meetings, even informal ones, the potential for damage is almost limitless, because context is everything, and out of context, almost anything can be made to sound sinister, or strategically damaging, or embarrassingly candid. Think about the most honest, unguarded conversation you have ever had with members of your own family, the things you said that you would never say in public, the frustrations you expressed, the opinions you voiced about people outside the family, the fears you admitted. Now imagine those conversations recorded without your knowledge. Now imagine them potentially in the hands of a royal biographer with a history of publishing what the palace does not want published. That is the situation the royal family may now be facing. And Anne, serious, disciplined, fiercely protective of the institution, allegedly has those recordings. Which brings us to the single biggest question in this entire story. What is Anne going to do with them? Anne's dilemma. Princess Anne's relationship with the monarchy is different from almost everyone else in the family. She has never sought the spotlight. She has never leveraged her royal status for personal enrichment in any visible way. She carries out more royal engagements than almost any other working member of the family, with very little fanfare and almost no controversy. She is, by any objective measure, the most reliably institutional royal of her generation. Her response to the Balmoral situation, reportedly immediate, physical, absolute, tells you everything about where Anne stands. She does not tolerate breaches of royal privacy. She does not make exceptions for family connections. If you cross a line, she draws an even sharper one. So what does Anne do with tapes that could expose her family to an unprecedented level of scrutiny? Sits him down, plays him what is on them, lets him decide how to handle the fallout with Camilla. This is the institutional option, the loyal option, but it puts Charles in an almost impossible personal position. And it means that Anne is handing control of a situation that she clearly cares deeply about to someone who has far more complicated emotional stakes in the outcome. Option 2. She keeps them, quietly, as leverage. Not in a malicious sense, Anne is not that kind of operator, but as insurance, as evidence that the breach occurred should it ever need to be proven. This is the strategic option, the option of someone who understands that in palace politics, information is power, and power carefully held is power that does not need to be used. Option 3. She allows the information to reach Tom Bower, not necessarily the tapes themselves, but the knowledge of their existence. This would explain Bower's apparent involvement in the story. Anne, who would never speak to a biographer directly in the traditional sense, may have found ways to ensure that the right information reached the right people, allowing the story to develop in public in a way that is controlled but unstoppable. Which of those options do you think Anne is most likely to have chosen? I genuinely want to know what you think. Leave it in the comments below, because the answer to that question tells you a great deal about where this story goes next. The broader implications for the monarchy. Let's zoom out for a moment, because this story does not exist in isolation. It exists within a monarchy that is already under enormous pressure. King Charles III is dealing with his own cancer diagnosis and recovery. The Princess of Wales has been through an extraordinarily difficult and publicly visible health crisis. Prince Harry and Meghan remain estranged from the family with no visible path to reconciliation. Prince Andrew continues to be a reputational liability that the institution cannot seem to fully contain. Into all of this walks the allegation that the king's own stepson was secretly recording royal family meetings and treating one of the family's most sacred private estates as his own personal filming studio. The timing could not be worse. The institution is already fragile. Public support for the monarchy, while still positive overall in the United Kingdom, is not at the level it was during the Queen's reign. Each new scandal costs political capital that the family does not have in unlimited supply. And here is the thing about this particular scandal that makes it different from the others. This one comes from inside the house. Harry and Meghan's revelations were painful, but they came from people who had, to a significant degree, already separated themselves from the family. The Andrew situation was deeply damaging, but Andrew was already isolated. This situation involves someone who remains embedded in the family structure, someone who has regular access to royal spaces and royal conversations, someone whose mother is the Queen. There is no easy distancing here. There is no simple narrative about someone who chose to leave the family or was pushed out. This is a continuing relationship, a living entanglement, and that makes it far harder to manage, either publicly or privately. The silence of the palace. One of the most telling aspects of this entire situation is the official silence from Buckingham Palace. Royal households have well-developed instincts for when to speak and when to stay quiet. They have communications teams whose entire purpose is to manage exactly these kinds of situations, to issue statements that are carefully worded enough to deny the most damaging versions of a story while not confirming the underlying facts. The absence of a robust official denial, or indeed of any substantive official response, to the emerging details of this story is significant. It is the kind of silence that speaks volumes in royal circles. When the palace wants to kill a story, It says so clearly and forcefully. When it goes quiet, it is often because the story is too close to something true to risk engaging with directly. Tom Parker Bowles himself has not, at the time of this script, made any substantive public statement addressing the core allegations. And that silence, from a man who is perfectly comfortable operating in public, who gives interviews, who appears on television, is arguably the loudest silence of all. What does it mean when the people at the center of a story involving secret recordings and royal confrontations choose not to defend themselves publicly? The historical context. Here is something important to understand. The royal family has been here before, not in exactly this way, but in the territory of secret recordings and leaked private communications, the Squidgygate tapes, the Camillagate recordings, the unauthorized publication of private communications during the most turbulent years of Charles and Diana's marriage. These were not just gossip stories. They were genuine constitutional and personal crises that forced the monarchy to confront its relationship with privacy, technology, and the people closest to it. What the family learned from those experiences was supposed to be a permanent lesson in the dangers of informal communication and unguarded speech. For years afterward, senior royals became extraordinarily careful about what they said, to whom, in what setting. So the idea that in 2024, private royal meetings may have been covertly recorded, not by an outside journalist or a foreign power, but by someone within the family's own trusted circle, represents a failure of exactly the kind of vigilance that those earlier crises were supposed to have instilled permanently. History, in the royal family, has a way of circling back. What happens next? Here is where we are. Tom Bower, Britain's most credible royal investigator, is allegedly working on material that connects Tom Parker Bowles to covert recordings of royal family meetings. Princess Anne reportedly confronted an unauthorized operation at Balmoral that bore Tom's alleged approval and is allegedly in possession of tapes. The palace is quiet. Tom has not issued a robust public defense, and the king, already dealing with health issues and a family in various states of difficulty, may be facing the most intimate betrayal of his reign. What comes next will depend on several things. It will depend on whether Bower's material reaches publication, and in what form. It will depend on whether Princess Anne chooses to act on what she allegedly has, and how. It will depend on whether King Charles decides to address the situation directly with Tom, with Camilla, or with the public. And it will depend on whether anyone else, any other source, any other journalist, any other figure within or adjacent to the royal household, decides that this story is too important to stay quiet about. Royal stories have a momentum of their own once they begin moving. The Balmoral confrontation was apparently not enough to stop this one. Tom Bower's involvement was apparently not enough to stop this one. The palace's silence has apparently not been enough to stop this one, because here you are, watching this, learning about it, asking the same questions that royal insiders have allegedly been asking behind closed doors. This story is not over. In fact, we may only be in the very early stages of watching it unfold. Tom Bower's investigation, Princess Anne's alleged possession of recordings, the silence from Buckingham Palace, the questions surrounding what exactly was happening at Balmoral, all of it is still developing. All of it is still in motion. So here is what I need from you right now. First, subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because when the next chapter of this story breaks, and it will break, you need to be here for it. This channel will be covering every development as it happens, with the context and depth that this story deserves. Second, leave a comment. Tell me what you think Anne should do with those tapes. Tell me whether you think the palace can survive another scandal of this magnitude. Tell me whether you think Tom Parker Bowles has been treated fairly by the media, or whether the scrutiny is justified. I read every single comment, and this is one of those stories where your perspective genuinely matters. Third, share this video. Share it with the royal watchers in your life. Share it with the people who think they know the whole story. Share it with anyone who believes the monarchy is a stable, secure institution that has learned from its past. Because what is allegedly happening right now at the highest levels of the British royal family suggests that some lessons are harder to hold on to than others. The palace thought nobody would notice. They were wrong. And as long as people like you keep asking questions, keep demanding transparency, keep watching, keep engaging, the truth has a way of eventually finding the light. We will be watching. We will be here. Don't go anywhere.